Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I actually wanted to do some cozy romance book recommendations. I feel like this time of year, autumn into winter, for readers, this is the time where we really try and get into the fantasy, especially if that isn't usually our preferred genre. About autumn winter gives fantasy energy, but in saying that, it's very, very easy to get worn out on the fantasies. So what I have for you today is a selection of romance books which I feel don't take away from the autumn season or give a nice break from all the fantasies and mysteries that I know that we're all trying to get through. So I'm going to go through those with you. I'm going to try and keep descriptions of the books somewhat limited. I'll give a little bit, but more so I think I'm going to go over why I feel like this fits the autumn cozy vibe. The first book I picked was Ghosted by J.M. Darhauer. This is definitely more on the serious plot side. It's not like one of those like super tropey romance comedy kind of books. It's definitely got more of a serious note. Basically, guy in it, his name's Jonathan, I believe. He is a Hollywood actor. Unbeknownst to everyone, he has a child with his high school sweetheart, Kennedy, and he basically left them. But he kind of wants to come back, that's what's going on. Bouncing back and forth between them kind of meeting and falling in love, and then him now kind of trying to come back into their lives. And it's very wholesome seeing him with his daughter and like seeing him trying to gain back trust from his family. So yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's the wholesome vibes in this one that really give me that cozy, like it warms your heart. It's very sweet and I really, really love this book. This book's a 5-star, I'm not gonna lie. Next book is Yours Truly. Now this one is very different from the other ones because the other ones have kind of more serious notes in them. This one is definitely a bit, this one definitely feels a bit funner, has a bit more of that like lighthearted rom-com-y vibe, but then it definitely still has its like serious points. One of the things that makes it a cozy romance, you gotta kind of have an element of like it warms your heart the way that they are. And Jacob in this book, he's very, very anxious, and the portrayal of his anxieties are so real. It feels so real, and you just want to give him a big hug and be like, I get it, I understand, like you're so fucking impressive, the fact that you do what you do and you feel what you feel. Dr. Brianna and Dr. Jacob, kind of, they're both doctors, house plays that for them. They kind of meet in a not so great way originally because, you know, Jacob's a very anxious guy. It didn't go well their first meeting, and then Jacob writes her a letter to try and kind of like explain, I'm sorry. This is why I find it hard to like be, you know, super outgoing on the first meeting kind of thing. And yeah, they develop French from there, and it's just the sweetest, loveliest, warmest hug of a book ever, and Abby Jimenez hits every time. So moving on to the next book, it's another Abby book. This is about Alexis Montgomery and Daniel Grant. Why did I say their full names? Basically, Alexis is part of a really big doctor family, and she's got a lot of pressure on her because of that, and then she ends up meeting this guy who's like a bit younger than her, called Daniel, who owns a little hotel. I think he's a carpenter. He is really, really sweet and just would do anything for anyone. It's kind of got that small town element a little bit, which kind of gives the cozy energy, but he is just a ball of love and care, and Abby Jimenez really knows how to write a good male love interest. Next is Song of Forever Rains by E.J. Mello. It's actually a fantasy. More heavy on the romance side, I'd probably say, and a bit shorter than your average fantasy, so it might be a bit easier to digest, you know, if you want to get into a fantasy but you know you're not too sure. So an interconnected standalone. So there are three sisters. How do you say that word? I feel like this is like a word that's like people would know. Mose, a trio of revered and feared sorceresses. So her and her sisters all have like each have some sort of skill which makes them really, really dangerous. I think she can sing, one of her sisters can dance, and the other one can play an instrument. When she sings, she makes people lose their fucking minds. Like, a normal human being cannot hear it because they will actually freak the fuck out. And her sister can dance, which will entrance people, and then the other one harps it up. I don't know what she does. But anyway, it'd be a good little place to start if you want to get into a fantasy, but still a romance. And kind of cozy because it's kind of like dark, but not dark as in like dark as in like when I was reading it, everything just kind of dimmed. Do you know what I mean when I say that? I feel like some books just feel like the lighting is dark. If you get what I mean. And that feels cozy to me. I don't know. Next, this is an obvious one. Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. Their best book, let's all say it. This is a second chance romance between, what are the names? Maisie and something. I don't know. People are gonna shoot me if I don't remember his name. Elliot. Is it Maisie and Elliot? Yeah, Maisie and Elliot. Second chance romance. Obviously, they fall in love when they're really young, break up, try and come back together. That's the vibe. But this, again, very wholesome, very easy to digest, nice little break in time. I feel like second chance romances are really, really quick, fun books to read because you're going back and forth from the perspective so much. So every time you get bored of one time, suddenly you're into the next one. So you just want to keep going, and suddenly you're done with the book. So yeah, if you need a little break from whatever else you're reading and you haven't picked up Love and Other Words, this could be the season. Next is a new fave book for everyone, I feel. Divine Rivals. Oh my fucking god, I love this book. Historical romances just do something for me, especially like a wartime kind of like English vibe. Like, picture like Peggy Carter in the first Captain America movie. I love that movie because of the setting. Like, that vibe just does something for me. I just live for it, and this gives that vibe. I was obsessed with it, and it just feels so romantic. And I mean, it's war, so maybe I'm kind of fucked up for romanticizing, but it's a romance, so what do you want me to do? It's about Iris, and she is basically a writer, and she ends up becoming a war correspondent. She has a bit of a rivalry with this guy Roman, who she worked with. The magical element of it, she has this typewriter which communicates with someone else's typewriter. Guess whose typewriter it is? Yeah, but it's so fucking cute. I love this book so much. I can't wait for the next one. Ruthless Vows. It comes out in December if you didn't know. Next, I don't have copies because they are the thickest books in the world, and I read them, well, I started them when I was traveling back from my holiday this summer, so I just got it on my Kindle. But it is Binding and Keeping 13. Okay, if you haven't read Binding and Keeping 13, what are you doing? To be fair, I haven't continued the series yet. I will be, but again, they're really long books, so not interconnected standalones. They're kind of like the Addicted series, where it's like different couples have different POVs in different books. But the first two are Johnny and Shannon's POVs. Oh, I love Johnny and Shannon. That's another reason why I probably haven't picked up the next books yet, because I feel very attached to Johnny and Shannon. I hope they get, I heard a rumour that they're going to get, the final book's going to be in their perspective again, which would be very nice indeed. I would love that. Johnny's like the golden boy. He's the star rugby player. He's getting drafted for like the fucking island rugby team. and he's rich. Wow. And then Shannon's like in a really horrible home situation, terribly bullied at school, just a completely withdrawn individual. They end up meeting. The way that they meet is so fucking funny. If you read any of it, I recommend just going to read them meeting. It's actually the most ridiculous thing, but it's amazing. And yeah, and Johnny kind of just becomes a bit obsessed with Shannon, and yeah, it's one of those books that you can just like pick up, read a few chapters and just feel completely relaxed, out of this world. And it's definitely character based than plot based, I guess, so you're kind of just like going through these people's lives, which I personally love. One of my favorite things about the Addicted series is like you just jump in 3 months later and you see this scene 3 months later, and then you jump again. You're not following one storyline, it's like showing all of these different, and then there's an overarching storyline, of course, but you're seeing just all these little different snippets of these characters that you love so much, of these characters' lives that you just love so much. And I loved that about the Binding 13 and Keeping 13. So it's set in Ireland, lot of rain, a lot of wind, a lot of grey skies, which I think is kind of gives a cozy vibe, because when you have that kind of weather, you want to curl up, put a candle on, have a cup of tea, read your book. Just give it a try. You might love it, you might hate it, but yeah. Next, I picked When in Rome by Sarah Adams. Now, I read this in the summer, and I definitely think that this book is appropriate for summer reading. It's about a pop star called Amelia, but she kind of get a bit over the pop star life, so she decides to have a little bit of a break. Very spontaneously, so she ends up having to stay with this guy in the town that she's just stumbled upon, I guess, called Noah. This is the cozy aspect. He owns the town's bake shop or pie shop. Yeah, he owns the town's local pie shop. If that's not cozy vibes, I don't know what is. They bake pies. There's nothing more like, do you know, the girls who get it, get it. The people who get it, and the people that don't, okay? That's all you should have needed to hear. He makes pies. Next is The 7 Year Slip. Again, you probably already have heard about this book, so I'll keep it brief. Clementine moves into her aunt's apartment, which just so happens to randomly go back in time 7 years, sporadically whenever it feels, meets a guy who's living there at the time, and we move on from there. This is set in New York City, so I think immediately that definitely gives cozy energy. I don't know why, but it does. Yeah, and again, he is a chef, which also to me gives cozy energy. Enough said. Like how when I'm filming these videos, as it goes on, I start very like, hi, actually trying to explain, and by the end of it I'm just like, I completely lose the plot. What was the original plot of the movie? We don't know. The next book is Second First Impressions. This is about a girl called Ruthie and a guy called Teddy, and Ruthie is like 20 something, but she dresses like a grandma, and they all go on and on and on about it. And something about that, and she works in a nursing home, something about that is very cute and cozy to me, because she's a cute and cozy girl. Yeah, Teddy is a bit more of like a bad boy, but he's like a bad boy with a golden heart, so it's very cute. And it's a very cute situation, and I definitely think it could be appropriate for a bit of cozy reading. I felt cozy when I read it. My final book is A Study in Drowning. Now, don't get me wrong, this is probably verging more towards fantasy. It's kind of got a little bit of a fantasy element, but it's kind of up in the air whether or not it does. Not really, actually. I don't know. It's kind of got a bit of a fantasy element. You'd have to read it to figure it out. But there is a bit of romance going on here. So basically, our main girl, Effie, is the only girl at the architecture college at her school, and she ends up in this job to design the house for her favourite author's family, something like that. It's like she has to redesign his manor, and he's just passed away, and he's her absolute favourite author of all time. She goes there, and there's this other student there, who she doesn't like for reasons that you would have to read to know. So this other guy that she meets has this theory that her favourite author is a bit of a liar. And yeah, things start getting a bit weird. This gives the cozy energy in the same way that Song of Forever Rains, which I was speaking about earlier, gave cozy energy in the fact that everything feels dark. This is also mainly set in a southern area of wherever they live, and the southern area is kind of described as like cliffsidey, very rainy, like sea levels rising. They talk about drowning and shit a lot. So yeah, it's definitely got dark visually vibes, which I find cozy. I absolutely loved this book. I'd really recommend reading it. It's definitely more on the just like kind of it sits somewhere in the middle of general fiction, fantasy, mystery, and a little bit of romance. But I loved it, so I'd recommend it. I just wanted to throw it in. That's going to be all the books that I'm bringing to you today. I hope you got a good recommendation in there. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what your opinions are on them. If you have any good recommendations, would be very much appreciated. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.